Good morning. Chipper and I are back with another chapter from The Indian in the Cupboard. Chipper, you getting excited to find out what happens with the cowboy and Little Bear? So when we left off at the end of chapter 8, Patrick tried to take his cowboy and horse home with him, but he was kind of rough with them, put him in his pocket, and Omri was very nervous about it. So Omri was able to convince Patrick to let the cowboy and horse stay at Omri's house, but Patrick begged for Omri to bring the cowboy and the horse to school tomorrow, and Omri agreed. So we'll see what happens. So we're going to start chapter 9, and it's called Shooting Match. Omri put the cowboy and horse in his sock drawer while he had the quickest supper on record. Then he raced upstairs again, stopping only to pinch a few grains of Gillen's rat feed for the 2 horses. Shut up in his room, he took stock. A room this size was like a sort of indoor national park to the cowboy and the Indian. It should be easy enough to keep them apart for one night. Omri thought first of putting the new pair straight back in the cupboard and then bringing them back to life next morning in time for school, but he had promised Patrick not to. So he decided to empty out the dressing up crate and put the cowboy and his horse in there for the night. The crate was about 2 feet square, made of planks. There was certainly no visible way out of it for the cowboy. Omri put him carefully down into it. Looking down at him, he felt curious about his name, where he came from, and so on. But he decided it was better not to talk to him. The cowboy had clearly decided that Omri was not really there at all. When his big hands reached down, carrying some cold stew, grain for the horse, some fragments of apple for both of them, and later some cotton wool and scraps of material for bedding, the cowboy deliberately covered his eyes by pulling down his big hat brim. It was only when Omri reached in one final time to give him a drink of water in a minute green glass bottle that he had found in the bathroom cupboard that the cowboy spoke a word. "Take that filthy stuff out of here," he suddenly shouted in his strong Texas accent. "I ain't aiming to drink no more as long as that's alive." And he heaved the bottle, which was almost as big as himself, up by its base and tipped its contents out onto the boards at the bottom of the crate. "It's only water," Omri ventured to say. "You shut your mouth," shouted the little man. "I won't take no lip from no gold iron hallucination. No, sir. Maybe I do drink too much. Maybe I can't hold my liquor like some of them real tough guys do. But if you're getting me delirium tremens and starting to see things, why couldn't you see pink elephants and dancing rats and all them purty things those other fellas see when they gets gone? It ain't fair for me to see giants and blue deserts and get put in boxes the size of the Grand Canyon with nobody to mess for company." He sat down on the pile of hay, took the horse's nose in his arms, put his face against it, and began to sob. Omri was shattered. A cowboy crying? He didn't know what to do. When his mother cried, as she sometimes did when things got too much, she only asked to be left alone till she felt better. Maybe all grown-ups were like that. Omri turned away and got slowly into his pajamas and then went to see how Little Bear was getting along on the far side of the crate. He finished the painting. The teepee looked really good. Little Bear was now in the longhouse arranging his blanket for the night. The pony was tethered to his post on a long rope. Omri took out the rat food and gave it to him. Then he called Little Bear up. "Are you okay? Anything you need?" He should have known better than to ask. "Plenty. Want fire in longhouse. Keep warm. Keep animals away. Want tomahawk. So you can chop bits out of my leg?" "Little Bear angry when say that. Sorry now. Use tomahawk cut down trees. Chop firewood. Kill fish." "What fish?" Little Bear replied with a very good imitation of a fish swimming. Then he did a mime of catching it, putting it onto a block, and, with a whirl of his arm, chopping off its head with gleeful relish. "I don't know about that. You get, tomorrow, fish from plastic. Good tools, but fire now. Chief Little Bear say." Omri sighed. He went to the waste paper basket and picked out the remains of the other fire that he'd thrown away in there. There was quite a lot of the firelighter left. He gathered up some of the bits of willow bark and twigs from where Little Bear had been working. You're not having it inside, though. Far too dangerous. He arranged the fire on the packed earth of the seed tray about 6 inches from the entrance to the longhouse, first moving the teepee to safety. Then he struck a match, and soon there was a cozy blaze. Little Bear crouched beside it, his red skin glowing and his eyes bright with pleasure. Little Bear, can you dance? Yes, many kinds. Would you do one now so I can see? He hesitated, then he shook his head once. Why not, though? No reason dance. Maybe if I got you a wife? The Indian looked up eagerly. You get? Give word? I only said I would try. Then Little Bear dance. Then do best dance, love dance. Omri turned off his light and drew back from the scene. It looked amazingly real, with the fire making shadows, the little horse munching his grain, and the Indian sitting on his heels warming himself, wearing his colorful headdress and chief's cloak. Omri wished he himself were small enough to join Little Bear by the fire. Omri, are you in bed? I'm coming up in 5 minutes to kiss you goodnight. Omri felt panicky, but it was all right. The fire was going out. Already, Little Bear was standing up, yawning and stretching. He peered up through the darkness. Hey, Omri, painting's good? Great. You sleep now? Yes. Peace of great spirits be with you. Thanks. Same to you. Omri peered quickly into the crate. The poor cowboy had crawled away into his makeshift bed and was snoring loudly. He hadn't eaten a thing. Omri sighed. He hoped Patrick was making plans and arrangements. After all, if Omri could keep his Indian secret, Patrick might be able to do the same. All might yet be well. But Omri certainly wasn't going to try the experiment again. It was all just too much worry. He climbed into bed, feeling unusually tired. His mother came in and kissed him, and the door was shut. He felt himself drifting off almost right away, when suddenly a piercing whinny sounded, and was answered by another. The horses had smelled each other. They were not so far apart, and the cowboy's wasn't tied up. Omri could hear his little hooves clattering on the bare boards of the crate, and then the whinnies began again, high, shrill, almost questioning. Omri thought of putting on his light, but he was awfully tired. Besides, what could he do? They couldn't possibly reach each other through the planks of the crate wall. Let them whinny their heads off. They'd soon get fed up. Omri rolled over and fell asleep. He was awakened just after dawn by shots. He was out of bed in about 1/5 of a second. One glance into the crate showed him all too clearly that the cowboy and his horse had escaped. The second glance showed how. A knot in the wood had been pushed out, or perhaps kicked out by the horse, leaving an oval-shaped hole like an arched doorway, just big enough to let horse and rider through. Omri looked around wildly. At first, he could see nothing. He dropped to his knees beside the seed box and peered into the longhouse. Little Bear was not there, nor was his horse. Suddenly, some tiny thing whizzed past Omri's ear and struck the crate beside him with a ping. Twisting his head, Omri saw it, a feathered arrow the size of a pin still quivering from its flight. Was Little Bear shooting at him? Little Bear, where are you? No answer, but suddenly a movement like that of a mouse caught the corner of his eye. It was the cowboy. Dragging his horse behind him, he was running, half bent over, from behind one chair leg to another. He had his revolver in his hand, his hat on his head. Another arrow flew, missing the crate this time and burying itself in the carpet, just ahead of the running cowboy, who stopped dead, jumped backward till his horse hit him, and then fired another 2 shots from behind the horse's shoulder. Omri, following his aim, spotted Little Bear at once. He and his horse were behind a small heap of cloth, which was like a snow-covered hill to them, but was actually Omri's vest, dropped carelessly on the floor the night before. Little Bear, safe in the shelter of this cotton mountain, was just preparing to shoot another arrow at the cowboy, one that could hardly fail to hit its mark. The poor fellow was now scrambling desperately onto his horse to try to ride away, and was in full sight of the Indian as he drew back his bowstring. Little Bear, stop! Omri's frenzied voice rang out. Little Bear did not stop, but his surprise spoiled his aim, and the arrow sped over the cowboy, doing no worse than sweep away his big hat and pin it to the baseboard behind the chair. This infuriated the little man, who, forgetting his fear, stood up in his stirrups and shouted, "Tarnation take ya, you red varmint! Wait till I catch ya, and have your stinking red hide for a sleeping bag!" With that, he rode toward the Vest Hill at full gallop, shouting out strange cowboy war cries and waving his gun, which, by Omri's count, still had 2 bullets in it. Little Bear had not expected this, but he was only outfaced for a moment. Then he coolly drew another arrow from his quiver and fitted it to his bow. "Little Bear, if you shoot, I'll pick you up and squeeze you," Omri cried. Little Bear kept his arrow pointing toward the oncoming horseman. "What you do if he shoot?" he asked. "He won't shoot. Look at him." Sure enough, the carpet was too soft for much galloping, and even as Omri spoke, the cowboy's horse stumbled and fell, pitching its rider over its head. And that is where we're going to stop for today. I can't wait to find out what happens next. I hope Little Bear and the cowboy don't end up killing each other. Maybe it would be nice if they could talk to each other, meet each other, and maybe even become friends. We'll see what Omri does next. All right, boys and girls, I'll see you next time. Bye.